Hi, Evandro Magalhães here, co-founder and chief language officer at Kudo. I have prepared a short video tutorial on the Kudo interpreter handover feature. This is a feature to allow two or more interpreters who are not co-located physically to take turns on the microphone in a seamless and unobtrusive way. The handover procedure can be started by the active or the passive interpreter without any need for chat messages or distractions. The handover function will display and work differently, though, for the passive and the active interpreter. So to better illustrate this, we have split the screen in two so that you can see exactly how it works for the active and for the passive interpreters who would be sharing a booth, say, in English and Spanish. The handover button works only when both interpreters have the same outgoing channel selected. So you both need to be in the outgoing channel box and select, say, Spanish in this case, okay, by turning it red. And of course, one of the interpreters must have his microphone or her microphone activated. So for one of you interpreters, the microphone should be red. Now for the active interpreter, you can now see how the handover function is blue, ready, and clickable. And the message in the box says, Boothmate is available. For the passive interpreter, the function is also blue and clickable. It's called the nudge button. And the message in the box says, Boothmate is interpreting. If both interpreters have the same outgoing channel active, but neither is interpreting, the handover button will turn gray. Once it is activated again, it comes back alive for both of you. Now, if an active interpreter switches to another outgoing channel, the handover function will again turn gray, because at this point there is nobody available to hand it over to. As stated before, both the active and the passive interpreter may initiate the handover. So let's see what it looks like when the active interpreter is the one initiating the process. So with both interpreters having selected the same outgoing channel, in this case Spanish, and with one of them having enabled her mic, I'm now going to ask the active interpreter to initiate the process. By clicking on the Start Handover button, the active interpreter pokes the passive colleague to check whether he is ready. For the passive interpreter, a beep will sound and a question will pop up on screen. Ready to switch? The passive interpreter now has 15 seconds to confirm his availability, and a countdown is actually displayed. If the passive interpreter fails to respond within the 15 seconds, the system will reset and the handover procedure will have to be started again. But if the passive interpreter replies with a yes, a message will pop up that says, "Get ready," and a 60-second timer will display. At the same time, the active interpreter hears a beep back and a message that reads, "Press go to complete." The active interpreter now has a full minute to find the perfect point to cut a sentence and then click go. A countdown is displayed on her end as well. Once she clicks on go, her microphone will be disabled. It will turn green. The passive interpreter will then hear two beeps and see the words, "Turn on your mic, request completed." Note that the busy button is also off now, indicating that the colleague has already released her mic. At this point, the passive interpreter must manually activate his microphone and start interpreting, thereby becoming the active interpreter. See how the status and the message on the other side has changed accordingly. Okay, let us now take a look at the process when the passive interpreter is the one initiating the handover, which is actually simpler. When the passive interpreter clicks on nudge, the active interpreter will hear the initial beep and see the 15-second timer. Once she confirms her availability, a 60-second timer is started to give the active interpreter a chance to find a good opportunity to hand over, which she can do by pressing go. With that, her microphone will be disabled and the handover will be completed on her end. As was the case before, the passive interpreter will now hear two beeps and see a message that reads, "Turn on your mic. Request completed." The busy button will also turn off, indicating that the colleague has already released her mic. At this point, the passive interpreter must manually activate his microphone and start interpreting. And that completes the handover. So this is how Two interpreters, two or more actually, can manage their turns and hand one another the microphone with just a few clicks. No chatting needed, no side conversations required. It's an elegant system that can be mastered with minimum practice. So I hope you've enjoyed this short tutorial, and thank you very much for being with us. I hope you have fun too with the handover procedure in Kudu.